Welcome back to the United Stand. Hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing right now. Get those bell notifications turned on too. You should have that done. You should know. YouTube's algorithm is not always our friend, so get that done. Loads to talk about on this beautiful summer's day. It's why I'm wearing this wonderful blouse. And I know some of you will hate the clothes I wear, but it's because I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable. And it's too hot to be wearing anything that isn't see-through. So hit the like button. Get yourself strapped in. Get yourself a nice cold drink. Loads to go through. Marcus Rashford. Man United right now supposedly struggling alongside him to find a club, to find a team for him going into next season. We're going to take a look at that in more detail. On the other hand, though, we're looking at Jadon Sancho, who reportedly is subject to interest from multiple clubs in Italy, Napoli being one of them, but Juve, that were looking at him last summer, are now back in the race, and according to reports in Italy, a 25 million euro offer for Sanchez has been made verbally to the club. Talks with the players' camp are also said to start soon. And with Antony, another exit the club need to get done, another player we need out of Manchester United. It's stated that he is willing to take a 30% pay cut to secure a move away. And when you think about Real Betis, the problem isn't paying the fee for him. I think they're quite comfortable. It's the massive salary that he is earning that they would need to see reduce. And reportedly, Antony is willing to do that. So we're going to be speaking about that today on the show. As ever, I'd love to get your views. I want to get your opinions in the comment section below. We'll put all your super chats up onto the screen as well. But good afternoon. You guys are saying the mic's low again. The mic's pretty high on my end. Let me just see if I can... Can you turn your earphones up a bit, maybe? That's not me being pernickety. That's me genuinely asking a question. Let's have a little look and see if there's anything I can do. This might help. I think I'm turning the decibels up a little bit on OBS. So let me stick that up by about 5. Let me know if that's okay, people. The mic is fine. Okay, well, maybe I'll turn it down a little bit from what I've done it up. There we go. I want everybody to be comfortable. Perfect now. Cool. Well, there we go. We put the decibels up on that a little bit. Hopefully you guys can hear a little bit better, but there we go. So look, I want to start off with Marcus Rashford, because when I read this story this morning, my first thought was everybody that believed the club needed to move on from Rashford is kind of proven right if you indeed believe this story. And what it states in the Manchester Evening News is that Man United are prepared for the possibility of another loan for Marcus Rashford. United sources believe the odds of a suitable bidder coming in at this stage are low. So at this stage of the summer, might happen later. Senior figures expect him to move abroad this summer. So there are senior figures at Man United that expect him to move along. Nobody's expecting bids now. And I think that's because, unlike we just spoke about very briefly with Antony, Marcus Rashford wants his salary. Marcus Rashford wants to not receive a pay cut. The problem is with that type of approach is that maybe Rashford thinks more of himself than clubs across Europe do. Nobody so far is bending over backwards to sign him. There are reports that Barcelona are still interested, even after getting Nico Williams. But Arsenal, that have been linked before, are not interested. Chelsea, not interested. Aston Villa want him. They were impressed with what he did from January till the end of the season. But Rashford isn't willing to take a pay cut to join them. They're not going to give him £250,000 per week. Seemingly right now, no major interest from Europe. None of the Liga teams are looking at him. And for me, I think this is a sign that clubs don't trust him. That clubs don't trust that he is value for money on the salary. I think at £30 to £40 million transfer fee is not too much of an issue. But as of right now, Rashford is essentially pricing himself out of a move to a new club over what he wants to be paid in salary. And some will say, look, that's his right. He's got a contract. He's under no obligation to take a pay cut. And that is true. But he isn't going to play much football at Man United. There are reports today that he won't be taken on pre-season tour either. There's a chance that Antony might. There's a chance a few players might go on the tour if nobody comes in. But it's been very well reported that United will have nothing to do with him. I think he needs good advice around him because I still think there's a phenomenal player in there. But at 250, 300k a week, most clubs seemingly don't trust investing a 3, 4, 5 year deal. Most are going to be 4 to 5 to be fair, plus deal in Marcus Rashford. Can he hit the heights? Can he sustain them? Does he have the appetite? Does he have the desire? That's the big question. And I'd love to get your thoughts and your opinions on this now. Guy and Legend says, yes, Terry, so much more enjoyable to listen to you. Okay, I didn't realise you were going to say that. Anyway, listen, this is the great thing about the United stand. Doesn't matter whether it's Goldbridge, me, Ricky, Beth, whoever's, Kevin, Mauds, anyone who's on. The dichotomy of opinion is the most important part of this platform, in my humble opinion. Say goodbye to the World Cup. Oh, yeah, look, Rashford has got zero chance of going to the World Cup if he indeed doesn't reconsider. And he can try and blame Man United all he wants, but that would just be crazy in my personal opinion. This is on him. United have helped him have an opportunity at Aston Villa. Aston Villa want to sign him. He's kind of turning his nose up at that opportunity. So that's on him. SW says nobody wants him. Nobody's interested. How long left on his contract? He is a liability. Crap footballer, sulks all the time. Well, look, I think people are interested in him, but certainly not at 250 to 300k a week as of right now. Maybe Man United yield on that price somewhat later on in the window, and that encourages people. But I think Rashford's got to look at this in the same way that Antony is. That no one, I don't think anybody at this point is going to pay him 250k a week, 300k a week. I think the best he can hope for is a 150 a week with bonuses where if he scores a certain amount of goals, plays a certain amount of games and helps the team achieve X goals, that maybe his bonuses cover that. I think that's what he's got to be aiming for right now. I really, really do. We have a super chat here from Black Wolf who says, can we just start a GoFundMe and buy out Rashford's contract? ATP, I've had enough. What does ATP mean? I'm so old. I often don't even know what these things mean. ATP meaning. I know it's golf, right? What does it mean? What does it mean in chat? Yes. At this point, there we go. I'm sure the comments have already started to write that. At this point, they get it. I'm similar. Listen, I don't have any personal issue with Marcus Rashford. I don't dislike him as a person because I don't know him. I'm not angry at him. But I've heard a number of stories about his lack of professionalism, what he's been up to in his private life. He has become a problem for Manchester United. And I'm talking a professional problem, not a personal problem. In terms of how long's left on his deal, you've got to imagine there's 3 years left. Top of my head, I'm saying 3 years. Okay. 3 years remaining on his contract. So, look, United are not just going to want to buy that out right now. I know what you're saying is a little bit flippant, but United are not just going to buy that out because simply it doesn't make sense to buy it out. It's too expensive. We're better off loaning him. And that's what the option is. That is what the story has said. United would be open to another loan because not paying the majority of his salary it's not a great option, but it might be the best we can get. I'm not personally blaming the current people running the club. They didn't renew his contract. They didn't put him on this amount of money. They didn't create this issue. So I'm not going to blame them for not being able to fix it completely. I still think more clubs will come in later on in the summer. There may be a little bit of a ploy here with clubs trying to drive down the price, but not a good look for Rashford at this point. This is from Honk Them Trumpets, who says, when Rashford said, I need a new challenge, he meant the near impossible, finding a new club. Yeah, well, he's struggling right now. He's certainly struggling right now, and he's going to need his representatives to do the best job possible to find him a suitable place, to find him an option, because right now, United can find suitors that are willing to pay the fee. He is just demanding too much in salary. And that, for me, is that's a major issue. I don't personally think it's Man United's asking price. When you consider that Cunha has just gone for 30 million, I don't think any team in Europe is going to get angry over 40 to 50 million pound for Rashford, who's a goal scorer. And typically speaking, the further forward you go in the team, the more expensive they get. Super chat's on the screen now, as you can all see. That's great. So yeah, it is looking like an impossible challenge, but it isn't Man United's asking price. As I say, if Kwanzaa's worth 30 million, Rashford's worth 40 at his age. But it's about those big wage demands. They're a huge problem. They're a huge issue. And they're certainly something that's between United and his agents, we've got to work on fixing. We absolutely have to. Desire here says, I'm sure we're stuck with him until the end of the transfer market and finally loan him out to Villa. Well, that also could end up happening, Desire. That could also end up being the situation here. It really could. Emily here with a super chat says, I thought Rashford would happen later in the window, especially when he set his heart on Barca. Loan Stories puts the onus on Rashford. Yeah, I hear you completely on that. Black Wolf's comment. Emily's one up on the screen now. Look, it may take a little bit longer, and that's it. I think clubs are going to ride it out. And this is also where as much as you want to have, the owners have got to get these sales done. What I don't want us to do is just yield this early and go, okay, you can have him for 20 million. Or there you go, 30 million, and the 10 million, 20 million you're saving in fee, you can use that to pay his wages. Because then we're out of pocket, Rashford gets what he wants, it's no skin off the nose of the buying club. And I don't want us to do that. As much as I want these players out and I want to invest in new individuals, for me, we've just got to start as we mean to go on. We had our best-selling summer last year ever in our club's history. I want us to try and break it again. I want us to raise money through the sale of players. I want us to become formidable in the negotiation room. Because as much as that, it does help you on the... It doesn't help you on the football pitch. It does. It helps you 110% on the football pitch. Because it helps you sell your dead wood. Eventually, you sell your dead wood faster and for more money. And then you can reinvest in better players for a cheaper amount of money. So it does help you on the football pitch in the medium to long term. And we must... absolutely do our best to get that done. Christian Patty, thank you very much for becoming a United Stand club member. You absolute legend. X here as well has also become a member of the show, so thank you. Chuffbridge here says, so Liverpool pay 40 million for Kirkes, City pay 35 million for Antony, and we spend 30 million for Dorgu, and we're supposed to be good at transfers under the new leadership. Well, you've got to... Look, it's a really good question. A really good question and a really good challenge. What I would say to it, though, is this. Let's give Dorgu some time. Let's give Dorgu some time to settle. Because we may get to a point in a few years' time where we change our mind and say that he's massive value for money. I'm not going to write this young man off right now. I'm not going to do it. Plus... Man United didn't pay 30 million pounds for him. We paid 25 million. So it's a little bit less than what you're saying. But it is still a fair challenge. And the reason why I think it's important for us to make sure that we have the right fee is we're not adding additional money onto these deals ourselves. But it was 25 million. Now, Kirkes is an amazing bit of business. And the other one you mentioned was the Antony deal. Now, you've got to remember a few different things in here. City and Liverpool have been brilliant negotiators for many years. We are not, Chuffbridge, going to undo years of being disrespected in the market, and when we're in a desperate situation to get better, it's going to take time for us to get onto the same level again in terms of the negotiation rooms that the Liverpools and the Cities are in. Especially when we're in dire straits and they're not. So... this is a slow burner, but it's important to set that marker. I don't think 25 million for Dorgu is particularly bad business. I really don't. Yes, Antony, it's 10 million pound more expensive, and Kirkes is 40 million pound more expensive. But if we start converting that into euros and doing it, that's like us spending. If we'd have spent 47 million euros on Dorgu, I could understand the challenge, but we didn't. You're talking nearly 20 million euros higher there. I think Dorgu's a good player. If you go back and watch the amount of good crosses and balls he put into the box, but our number 9s and our attackers, just their timing was wrong or positionally were poor. Better attackers this year, and I think he starts picking up more assists. I'm never that worried about Dorgu defensively. I think he's a good defender. And give him a little bit of time, please, to settle into the Premier League. Give him a little bit of time at least before we start to overly judge him. That would be my request of that. But you're free to say and do what you want. Now, the other bits of news today, I wanted to go to Sancho, because Sancho's another... It's funny, actually. I was doing a podcast the other day, and I was asked the three most important sales this summer. And it ended up being, I said, Rashford, Antony, Sancho. And the biggest reason being their salaries are very important. I think we can get a new goalkeeper and still have Onana at the club, potentially, if we're able to sell these 3 players. The salary payments clubs have to make are, generally speaking, a bigger focus than the transfer fees, because they're more money over the lifetime of that player. According to reports last night from Damasio, Napoli are well in for Jadon Sancho. On top of that, Juventus have now re-entered the race. Now, this morning, the United stand shared this around 11:30. Juventus have reportedly made an offer of around 25 million euros for Jadon Sancho. The offer was considered an important one. Now, Juve have to convince the player, who, as it stands, is interested by the prospect of a possible move to Napoli. So the good news here is Napoli want him, Juve want him, and the player's open to a move to Italy. And by the way, I think Jadon Sancho in Italy is a resounding success. I think he's an absolutely resounding success if he goes there. He absolutely is. And by the way, I love this super chat. Leao to Bayern, Rashford to AC Milan, I see it. Now, AC Milan, because of their fan base, they could probably afford the majority of Rashford's salary. And I also think the prestige and the fame of playing for AC Milan, they still have their heritage, they still have their fan base, would be a big attraction to him. I do believe that. But on Sancho, he's open to going to Serie A. So he doesn't need to be convinced to go to Italy. I think it would be a great league for him. I think culturally it would be amazing. Warm weather, great food. I just think he would thrive in Italy. I truly believe that. What I like about this, if you look at the prices, if United are able to maybe create a little bit of a bidding war, you know, we're talking 25 million euros have been offered. That's around 21, nearly 22 million pounds. Now, what's significant about that is, this is why I don't have knee-jerk panic reactions when it comes to every bit of negative news about Man United. I like to wait for things to play out a little bit. If we end up getting 25 million euros plus the 5 million euros that Chelsea have paid us to not sign him, we end up walking away with a minimum £1 million more than if Chelsea bought him, and he's not a rival within the country. So already the deal by INEOS would be a good one. If we can help to create by getting Sancho interested in both, we may even be able to create a little bit of a bidding war and maybe get 26, 27, 28, 30 million euros potentially for the player, which then again means we're getting more money than he was initially offered out for to Chelsea. And this to me gives me hope when it comes to other players that have failed, other players that we're going to find hard to sell, that if you can find the right loans, and we certainly have done that with Sancho because of the interest in him, that you can get some money back on these players. I think we still owe about £17 million on book value on Jadon Sancho. So to raise anything over 20 million means we make a profit of sorts on him this year, and the salary's off the books completely, and that's £250,000 a week. And even when he was out at loan last season, we still paid £5 million of his salary. Still paid £5 million of his salary. So for him to go, you'd be making a £3 to £4 million profit, and you would be taking off your wage bill for the next, which we've budgeted for, because you have to budget for what you have to, there's a guarantee to pay out for. We would then suddenly get 13 million back. With what we owe on him plus selling him, you then bring about 3.8 million in. Suddenly, you're 16.8 million pound better off. That can then be invested into the first team squad. So I'm fully behind this. I don't care whether it's Napoli. I don't care whether it's Juve. I don't care whether it's Bologna. I just hope we can find Jadon Sancho a new home for him, and more importantly, for the club. Very, very important for us indeed to get that done. Chuffbridge here is back with us and says City spent 30 plus 5 million on Antony, and we don't know the add-ons for Kirkes yet. I used the full fee for all of them. I agree on giving Dorgu time, though. But this is the thing as well, though. If you're going to give him time, let's wait and see and let's settle. Let's wait and see and let's settle and see what's going on. I think Antony, it wasn't a buyout clause in his contract. I think there was a gentleman's agreement for him to leave for a lower price. I'm not too sure of the situation with Kirkes, but let's wait and see whether that's good business or not. Let's wait and see how well the player does. You know? And I think that, for me, is what's really, really important here. I think it's really, really important to... If he's successful, we'll pay the 30 million you mentioned. But if he's successful, none of us are going to care how much he cost. Because if he's successful and does really well, then he's actually cheaper than the two aforementioned fullbacks. So if he fulfills his potential, I'm all for it. I'm not going to say it's bad business yet. Would I have liked Antony? Yes. Would I have liked for us to have signed Kirkes? Yes, I like them both, but I get why they've gone there. We're also in for Estupiñán. Now, let's see what the fee for him is. Again, if we go out there and drop... I mean, you've got to remember as well, City were also prepared to pay nearly just under £50 million for Cucurella a few years ago. Chelsea ended up paying it. I'd love Cucurella at Man United right now with how well he's doing. United are linked to Estupiñán, so let's see what kind of fee we could potentially bring him in for. So there are Prem-proven players that are interested in us. But, yeah, listen, I appreciate your opinion. I'm just not going to attack it as a bit of business yet. I'm really not going to do that. Rob here says many of Man United legends didn't come in and start good straight away. Evra struggled at the beginning. Van der Sar, even Vidic, Berbatov have had a tough time too. Absolutely. And I don't even think Dorgu was that bad last year. The only thing I was annoyed with him at last season was his shooting. His shooting was horrendous. But the amount of good balls he put into the box, and if people were getting on the end of it, we'd be sitting there going, oh my God, look, he got 8 or 9 assists in the back end of the season. Imagine what he could do in a full campaign. So I'm not just judging him on one thing. We got Cunha. Yeah, we did. We got Cunha for good money, but that was a buyout clause. So there we go. Dorgu is only on 40k a week. Wages are part of the equation. That's also a great point, Darren. What are the new wages of the... Does anyone know in the comment section, without me going to Google it, what's the wages of Antony going to be? What's the wages of Kirkes going to be? I bet they're at least double, if not 3 times as much. So again, you start adding everything together, and if say it's over 5 years, right? Dorgu's going to cost in salary over 5 years. He'll cost around 10 million, 10.4 million as an example. Let's just say Kirkes has got to be going on 80k. He's got to be going on 80k minimum. I'm gonna go over guess though of both players earning on average 125,000 a week, and I'm being very conservative with that. You start adding that into the equation over a 5-year period. That's 32 million pound versus 10 million. You add the 35 million, as you put it, Chuffbridge, into the equation for the fee. That's a 67 million pound investment, where Manchester United's investment is coming in around 40. So you're talking a 27 million pound difference. Then you've got to weigh up who plays the best, who plays well over the next 2 to 3 years for their respective clubs. So I don't think we've done bad business. I don't think we've done bad business in that. Check Estupiñán's injury record, not good at all. Is it bad? I know he had a bad injury. Let's go and have a little butchers. Let's go look at his injury record. Okay, so since he joined, so last season he obviously missed like 140 days. He had that bad ankle injury, and then he had an injury as well in January where he missed a bit. Season before that, yeah, you are right. Season before that, he missed September to November, then November to December, and then April to June. All says muscular injury. And then prior to that, the last injury before that was in 2021. So yeah, he's had a bit of a bad time in the last 2 seasons, and that's certainly something to factor in when it comes to the player, because I didn't realize it was that. I know he had one bad injury, but we'll see. But I like the player. I think from a technical standpoint, he's very, very good. 2 years left on his deal. 27 years old, 30 million euro valuation according to transfermarket.co.uk. So it's worth exploring. Yep, he's 27. I think it's a good age. Estupiñán is a very good player, but he's like another Shaw and seriously injury prone is what Steven says here. Yeah, I didn't realise how bad his injuries record was in the last few years. I just went and looked now, and I totally get where you're coming from. Christian Patey here says... It is Patey, right? I had a friend at school with that surname, and he pronounced it Patey. He says, since Rashford started to do campaigns for school meals, his quality of football has gone down. If Rashford and Sancho won't lower their wages, go to Saudi. Look, I don't think because he was helping to feed poor children that made him bad at football. I don't think the correlation and the causation are the same here. I don't personally believe that. However, and what I do think is important here is that my personal opinion is his lifestyle changed. I think he started going out more. I think that he started thinking more about forget not the charity, but I think he's thought about businesses, who he spends his time with. I think a lot of this might be going out and drinking and living a bit too much of a party boy lifestyle. That's where I think Rashford's inconsistency of form has come from. Now, I could be wrong, and this guy could be doing a jigsaw, having a cup of tea and going to bed every night at 9 a.m., 6-7 days a week, barely going out. That could be true. I'm just going with my gut instinct. Look, I am 39 now, but I remember what it was like to be 26, 27. I don't remember what it was like, though, to be that age and be that rich and that wealthy and that powerful. That in itself can be like a drug. That in itself can be a very hard thing to not want to do, to go out to the places where like-minded young people are, to, you know, I'll say it bluntly, to try and, you know, speak to the fairer sex, have some fun nights, have some parties. You know, some people can be a little bit addicted to look, everyone's looking, and it's, you know, I get a great reaction when I go out. I just got a feeling that late nights, early mornings, a little bit of alcohol, I think it's played a big part in that. Personally, I don't think it's him helping children. That was a fantastic thing that he did. Should have been knighted for what he did with the amount of children that he fed. I don't think that was a distraction from football, personally. How do I rate Diego Leon? I've got no way of rating him because I've never seen him play. I've read some really good things, but he's young and he's raw, and I'm not even sure if he'll play for the first team this season. Jahin Mia here says, Bruno sat there and said the club doesn't need money. Right? What's your point? Are you saying that means we should have bought all our players now? Well, Bruno's saying that. He's not the club saying it, first and foremost. And secondly, you have to balance the books. And I was saying this last night, and I stand on this. I want to see 3 players in by the time we start pre-season. We're 1 player in. We seem quite deep in the Mbeumo conversations. And keep an eye out for the situation with Emi Martinez. I agree with what Goldbridge said this morning. There is something to this deal in a big way. However, we can't just line up all our deals and then go into the market and try and sell players. At the same time as we moan that we're bad sellers and we're bad negotiators, that would put us in a weak position. If Emi Martinez is a here we go, we just got to sell Onana. If we've got Mateta ready, but we've just got to sell Rashford. We've got Mbeumo ready, but we've got to sell Jadon Sancho first. We've got Belieber ready, but we've got to get rid of Casemiro first. What will then happen is the potential suitors for those players will start to drive the price down because they know we're desperate. As the previous Super Chats said earlier, you've got to factor in the salary. The salary is a bigger focus for a club than the transfer fee. United have the money to spend, but I think if you were to ask what do you mean by that, well, we've got 100+ million we can spend on players. We're going to sell players and raise money. That was what my interpretation was, that we will sell enough to have a very solid summer. I personally would have liked us to have cashed in on Bruno, 110%. But equally, I'm not going to take everything he says as like red. But we have to be very careful that we don't put ourselves in a negotiating position where we spend a lot of money on players, but then we undersell by a total of 70, 80 million pounds this summer. That's a whole other player we could buy. We have to be very, very careful indeed with that. Because then we might get to a point where we go, right, we've got those 4 deals lined up, but we can't afford all 4 of them now because we showed our hand and we've undersold. We've got to be smart, methodical, surgical in this approach. This here comes from, says, from something Leeds United. Sorry, my eyes can't read that. My dyslexia can't read that. I'm very sorry. Regarding the books, I remember Ben Jacobs telling Beth that it would be better for United to do business starting the 1st of July, yet people are desperate. It absolutely would. I mean, going into the new financial year is normally always a help for a football club. But there are multiple other things that United have to factor in as well. So a club might want to buy Onana, but we can't quite get the fee that we want. And we don't want to make a loss on the accounts. So what we may be better off doing is loaning him for a year with an obligation, getting his salary covered. We could spend the money we're going to get on the obligation now, but then we don't lose on the book value. We don't lose on the player. We've already budgeted for his payment going out. It's already part of our P&L. If we sell him, though, and still have to pay out, all that money gets eaten up. All that money gets taken away transactionally. So you've just got to be smart in how you structure these business deals. And that's why not everything can be done quickly. It's very true. Terry, how much longer do you think it will be until we get the here we go on Mbeumo? Honestly, I've got a feeling it's within this next week. I've got a feeling it's within the next 7 days that we'll get an answer. It could be long. I know I'm giving a bit of a generic answer here. But it could be a little bit longer. Of course it could. I'm open-minded, but I think in the next 7 days we'll get the here we go. What I've read is that there's been constant dialogue for the past 2 weeks. United, it's small, little and often. What I've been told by some really credible journalists is that United, if they get this deal done, are likely to get him for less than the £70 million base plus add-ons that Brentford wanted. United have been chipping away at that and pushing, and supposedly there's a closeness now in terms of a happy medium being found. But even with those journalists, they won't say it's close. I think that's because these journalists are so scared of being called out by the masses that be online, where because I'm a content creator, I don't care. If someone said to me, the asking price is 70 million, United are currently bidding 62, 63 all in, including add-ons, and there's a real positivity that an agreement will be found fairly soon, I consider that to be a close deal. When you consider the player has prioritised his move, that to me, I look at it and go, that's pretty close, right? That's pretty much everything lined up. I don't factor in the legalities that come after the full agreement is made, because that's a formality. That's a formality for me. Unless there's an injury problem or United get a better option, the deal's going to happen. So I think it's fairly soon. What you might not see, though, is you might still not see the official announcement until after the 1st of July. The other element as well why Man United might want to sandbag a few deals is we are paying a lot of... There is this element of we've got to save as much money as possible. So let's just say we bring all our players in 1st of June, the first window. They don't kick a ball for us until mid to end of July. What, we're going to pay out £1 million, £2 million in salary? Why pay the salary when their current clubs can pay it? There's all these factors. And like I've said, though, we get to pre-season with just one player. We're a few days away from going on tour and we've just got one player. Nobody sold nothing. I will start to complain. Until that point, I'm just keeping my powder dry. Simple as that. Terry, how do clubs communicate with each other? In multiple ways. Sometimes it's official, emails, telephone calls, faxes. But often now what you get is a lot of communication via WhatsApp. Because one, it's encrypted and nobody else can see it. It gives a really solid paper trail. And it's convenient. You could be a sporting director away for the weekend with the wife and kids and you can still work. You know what the script is. You know what you can and can't do. So WhatsApp is where a lot of it's done. In fact, in my time before I left the bank, a lot of communications with officials at clubs and with our clients who are the players, a lot of it, they were like, can we do it on WhatsApp? And eventually, at the beginning, we weren't allowed to. But eventually, we were able to add WhatsApp to our business, our work phones, so that because they had to be recordable. The bank needed an audit trail of its communications with customers. So I couldn't just sit there on my personal WhatsApp. I can say it now because I've been out of the bank 7 years. I used to do that with certain football players like Diogo Jota, and Falcao was one of my clients, and they'd just say, WhatsApp me, it's a lot easier. So we did. But if I had to do anything official, they still had to phone in the official business numbers so the calls were recorded. It was a palaver. It was a palaver. But I did enjoy those days. Terry, do you think since Rashford's sale would be 100% pure profit, that since the stumbling block is wages, that we could give him a £8 to £10 million payoff to get him off the books? We could, but we're not good. That's where we've got to leave it longer. I would be unhappy if Man United, say we had to sell Rashford to complete a deal and we were going to lose that deal by not doing it today, then you could argue there is a cost versus income ratio and benefits ratio that you weigh up. But as of today, I wouldn't want to waste that £8 to £10 million that could go towards new talent. I'd rather twist a little bit here. It's like, if you look at like blackjack, if you're sitting there and you're on 18 or 19, don't take another card. If you're sitting there after 2 cards though and you're on 3, it's well worth taking a hit. Oh, God, got money on 7. Take another card. You know, you've got to weigh. There is always a gambling element when it comes to the sales process of football players. You have got to sometimes stick to your guns. You can't always twist. Sometimes you can twist a little bit too early. Isn't Rashford to Arsenal the obvious transfer? They need a left winger and a forward, plus he can be a second striker. That's a really good point. I think Rashford would kill it at Arsenal. I think he'd be a phenomenal signing. But, and there is a Kardashian but in this, it's a big one. Arsenal might not be ready to move yet. He might be a second or third choice option for them from this point. So to what I was saying earlier about not reacting too early, let's paint a picture. United go, all right, listen, Barcelona, listen, or Aston Villa, drop the asking price to, because whether we pay Rashford off or drop the asking price, it's the same difference. We'll drop the asking price from 45 million to 30 million. That covers Rashford's wages for you. Way, everyone celebrates. We do the deal. And then Arsenal pick the phone up and say, we're going to move for Rashford. Too late, he's gone. We've just given away 10 million, 15 million quid. Because we didn't wait. So that's why I'm not going to overreact to every bit of bad news. I'll criticize things I don't like the sound of, but I'm not going to overreact. The other bit of news today that we've already touched on briefly, and I think it's this is really positive for United, and that is that Antony is prepared to take a pay cut of up to 30%. He's from his current 150k per week salary. So that is really, really significant because Real Betis and other teams currently don't want to pay him the wages that he's on. They can't afford to. But they're quite happy with the £40 million price tag that United have put out there. Now, if he's willing to take a £45,000 a week pay cut, that's massive for Manchester United. We require a £32.6 million fee to avoid a book loss. So that's how much we still owe to Ajax for him that we have to pay out. So if we could bring in 40 million, again, we get the wages gone and we make a very small profit on the player. That then enables us to fulfill what Bruno said and go out and spend more money. So as frustrated as I am with the Rashford story, Sancho and Antony, who in some respects are more important to sell because we owe money on them. The payments this year for both, we owe a collective amount of just under £50 million for both of them. That is a genuine hole. We have committed to paying that. It's not like Champions League revenue that you don't budget for. The media like to bullshit us Man United fans on this. We have 2 financial plans, one with, one without Champions League, but the one that's in place is always without. And that's like you and I. Say you have a job where you earn 30 grand a year, but you might get a 10 grand bonus. You don't buy things or commit to things based on maybe getting a bonus. You commit to things within your guaranteed income. And the bonus is a bonus. That's literally called a bonus. So Man United have factored to spend £50 million in the next 2 years on the payments for these players. If we're able to bring in, and let's just go for a good estimate here, because he was very good in La Liga, 45, 50 million for Antony. If we're able to get these Italian teams to bid a little bit, and we're able to bring in 25 million, plus the 5 that we've already been paid by Chelsea, suddenly then you have £70 million coming in against a £50 million debt. That debt's wiped off. You're not paying it anymore out of what you'd budgeted for. So you're now saving 50 million, plus you're making 20 million. That then can all be reinvested into players. So this news is very, very positive indeed. And it's why, listen, again, I'll say it over and over and over. Let's criticize the club when we do things wrong. Let's get annoyed when they mess up. But there are times we've got to help the club, even if we don't want to. Every time La Liga was praising Antony, every one of us should have been retweeting it, quote tweeting it, sharing it, pushing their own propaganda. That would have helped us raise the price. That would have helped us find suitors. Because the hype's up. So for me, I'm very hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful that we're able to get this done. I'm very hopeful that we're able to turn around and get a couple of these players out of this football club, increase the kind of ability for us to spend. I really, really do want to see that massively. Players on sale: Rashford, Sancho, Garnacho, Antony, Mount, Shaw, Casemiro, Onana, Bayender. Time to be ruthless. It's time to be ruthless, Rob, but sensible. Do not undersell them. There's how many players you listed there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players. Let's say on average we undersell each player by £8.5 million. On average, £8.5 million. Times that across 9, that's £76 million we just burnt. I've been. This is why I'm so happy to be on the United stand, because it's the biggest Man United platform in the world, and not enough people have heard me say what I'm about to say. This summer alone, be ruthless, but don't be stupid. My coach used to have this saying with us as fighters, and it was, don't be careless, but don't be too careful either. And that meant don't just stand there and like this the whole time of fight and take a beating. Equally, don't swing with your jaw hanging out trying to knock them out, because you're going to get caught and sparked, right? I look at transfers very much in that same light. Big up Arthur. Love that man. My old coach. Imagine we waste £76 million this year by underselling. And I'm talking on average, right? So buying there, you might not even get 8 million for. I'm saying on average, right? It's crazy. The way I look at this, right? The way I look at this is very, very simple. The saying, it's not my money, I don't care. You're a Glazer. It means you're happy to burn the club's money like the Glazers do. Why would you advocate that? Logically think about it. Why? Imagine you do that. Let's lower the money. Let's say we undersell by £6.5 million every year on the average of 5 players going out. So let's boil it down to a normal year. That's 32 million a year. Over a 10-year period, you've undersold by 325 million. Let's say you overpay. We overpay by 8.5 million on average per player. By and large, you buy 5 players every summer. It's 42 million. You do that over a 10-year period, 425 million plus the 325 that we already mentioned. Suddenly, sorry, I'm a stupid man. I didn't do the right sum here. Bear with me a second. Let me plus 320 million onto this. Suddenly, over 10 years, you've wasted 745 million pound on players, whether they were good enough or bad. If they're bad, you've got to spend even more to catch up. And even if they're good, you've eaten into so much money, it's harder to rebuild the squad when they start to decline. We have to get out of this notion that it's okay to overspend because it's not my money. It is your money. It's your club's money. So for me, be ruthless, but don't be stupid. Be ruthless, but don't burn money. I used to say the same thing. Not my money. Are you going to pay 90 million for him? Is he worth it? Don't care. Not my money. I said that from probably about my whole life up until about 2014. And then it just clicked. I went, hang on a minute. Maybe a bit later, maybe about 2016. It is my money. I'm sitting there going, why are we not spending early in the June window? It's because we've wasted billions of pounds through overspending, unnecessary spending, ridiculous wages, mercenaries, interest payments, dividends. We're £2 billion in the hole. How do we fix that? By being thrifty, by being smart, by not just cowering at the first sign of adversity. Just my opinion. Juve willing to spend 20 million on Sancho. Yeah, that's the news. That's the story, Robs. That's the story coming out right now. There was a super chat that went up on the screen that I didn't read out. It was from Luke, by the way. He says, "Are you still confident United are getting Mbeumo?" I'm liking that comment. Yeah, I am. There has been no news. Duncan Castles, he said what he said. There has been not a singular piece of news that I have personally read that's made me go, oh, shiver me timbers. Oh, no, Spurs are coming. Spurs are there. Spurs are interested. He's not rejected Spurs. I'm very happy that I would call it a rejection because I'm calling Gyökeres to United a rejection as of this point. But Spurs are sitting there, and if United can't come to an agreement and United walk away, I believe his mind could be changed. What I haven't seen any evidence of is that his mind is in the process of changing. I've not seen any evidence of that whatsoever. None. Zero. So, yeah, I'm confident right now. There's always a chance. There's always a possibility that he goes to Spurs. But I ain't rattled by that at all. Not one molecule of me is rattled by that one. Are you our new daddy? Where's Beth? Well, you spelled Beth with 2 Fs. It's a very weird thing to call me. But what you'll never do is make me blush. Because I'm very comfortable in my sexuality. We need at least 4 to 5 players. Yep, I agree with you, Rob JT. We need that. And I'd like 3 of them minimum for the start of pre-season. We've got about 2 to 3 weeks to start getting there. I'm going to keep my powder dry until that point. We'll see what happens. Rashford is 100% to want 100% to want what is contracted. Listen, he's absolutely within his rights to want what he's contracted to. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not saying he isn't right to want that. It may not be the best move for his footballing career at all. But you're right. It's his right to say, I'm not taking a pay cut. Nobody has claimed that it's not his right. Terry, can a player express his love for a club and then go to another club? Yes. Because it depends what they mean. You might love... I loved working... I've loved companies that I've worked for. But when a better job offer comes along that can't be matched by my current company, paying my mortgage and feeding my children is far more important. Far more important. Far more important. When it's your job. Any man or woman that would put, oh, no, I love working for WH Smith. But, I know Tesco's have offered me double the money. But I'm going to turn it down out of loyalty for WH Smith. You'd be crazy. You'd be crazy to do that. Really waiting for news. Any news? Nothing happening. Just appreciating players. Lots is happening at Manchester. I've seen a few of these comments the last few days. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to defend United Stand. I'm going to defend YouTubers. This is a community. Yes, we share news. Yes, Mark has a few sources here and there tucked away. But by and large, we're a football fan channel community. So whether it's talking about there being no major updates and being frustrated, you have the right to express that. Whether it's talking about breaking news, whether it's talking about the nuances of conversations, whether it's the breakdown of the finances that I like to go into because it's my background, there's loads to talk about. And Mark said this yesterday in a comment. There was a time during lockdown where there was a consideration to shut down the United Stand. But you, the community, kept it going because what you said to Mark is, no, it doesn't matter if there's football, no football. We want to sit here and talk. We're a community. We're a family. We're friends. We're together in that way. And that's why this channel, this platform grew so magnificently through that period to these epic levels of 2.1 million subscribers, 20, 30, 40 million views a month, probably hundreds of millions when you go across all platforms, clips, etc. So we're not Sky Sports, we're not the BBC sitting here and going, right, breaking news and saying nothing. We're a fan channel reacting to what's being said, giving you the chance to express yourselves. If you're someone that doesn't want to watch fan channels until there is the players holding the shirt on the Man United website, that is your prerogative. But what you don't need to do is come here and say that. What's the point? I'm having a barbecue later. Don't turn up and say, I've come, but I hate barbecue food. I hate the sun. I don't like drinking. I don't like being with people. That's stupid. Just don't come. Simple as that. And I know it's not my platform, it's Mark's. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that to people. But come on now. Come on now. You know what fan channels are. And you know what fan channels are not. We are a community and we're here to talk about things that are going on. 3 times a day we go live. That isn't going to change at all. Same goes for my personal platform, the Football Terrace. Exactly the same concept. Hope that makes sense. We should look at some players playing outside of Europe. They are cheap and some of them are capable of playing good versus the likes of Inter, PSG. They do, but we are looking at that, aren't we? We are looking at that. So Leon, as an example, is a player from outside of Europe that we have gone for. I will say this. I've been a little bit frustrated with the Club World Cup. The last 24 hours or so have been good, though. Inter Miami beating Porto. Last night, PSG getting beat. Some real passion being shown. So hopefully now the viewing figures go up. More people start turning up to these games. Hopefully we get a few more shocks. I'm actually live tonight on That's Football for the Chelsea watch along, which will be a hell of a lot of fun. It'll be a hell of a lot of fun. It really, really will. But there we go. Look, I want to thank each and every single one of you for tuning in. This stream is going to redirect you to my channel, the Football Terrace. I'm live in about 7 minutes for Straight Facts with Staffy, who's another United fan. He's a great United fan. Bit grumpy, right? But you'll like him. We've got Man Like Don, who is a big Chelsea fan. So come watch us. We're talking United, we're talking Liverpool, we're talking Arsenal. So that's live at 3 p.m. So I'd love to see you all over there. Before you leave here, though, get like buttons hit. Make sure you're sharing this across all your social media platforms. But until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you all again soon.